The Armenian Seventh Vision of Daniel. Chapter 1. 3 years after all the revelations that had been made to the Daniel the prophet, the angel Gabriel, who had aforetime been sent unto him, was sent again by the Lord, and said unto him, Daniel, beloved man, I am sent by the Lord to speak to thee, and to show thee what will happen at the end of the days, after the coming of the word, who shall be announced by me. There shall be a virgin in Israel, and she shall receive the word from the word, and he will take flesh for the sake of the world, and he will cause many among Israel to be saved. And consider with care, and hear what shall happen at the end of the days in all the towns and provinces, on account of the iniquities of men. And I, Daniel, said, Speak on, my Lord. And he spake unto me, and saying, After the fulfillment of all that was prophesied concerning all the towns and provinces of Asia, Pontus, Phrygia, Galatia, Cappadocia, Carpathia, Smyrna, Antioch, Alexandria, Egypt, Nicaea, Nicomedia, Chalcedon, Byzantium, Babylon, and Rome, through the mourning of the children and the increase of the dearth, the fertile land shall be laid waste. Thy princes shall become children of groanings, and thy possessions that are around thee shall be made desolate, and they shall be removed from thee to Babylon of the 7 hills. The prince of Pontus shall fall, and the sword shall devour his children. His host shall fall by the edge of the sword, and many shall be carried over to Byzantium, and there they shall be buried. The children of the Phrygians shall be consumed through the want of bread and water. Their land shall be cleft, and they shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and many of them shall flee to Carthage. In Galatia a fire from heaven shall appear, and she shall be consumed by thunders and lightnings. The thrones of her princes shall be overthrown, and her country shall be bathed in blood and burnt with fire. And then many shall flee to Rome. In Cappadocia Minor her children shall destroy one another, and carry one another captive, and their princes shall be discomforted. And all they who dwell around her shall be in tribulation, and shall sigh heavily. The children of Babylon Minor and Carpathia shall be in tribulation. They shall see conflagrations, and they shall not believe. The ground shall be cleft, and they shall all be brought down to hell, and many shall flee to the 7 hills. In Smyrna wrath shall be increased. She, like a cub, shall be filled up with blood, and she shall fall down from her glory. Thy princes shall be carried away, and thy great ones shall be overthrown, for the day of the Lord's wrath shall come upon thee. The children of Antioch shall perish, and her building shall be thrown down, and her princes shall not enjoy them. Thy fall shall be wrought by an earthquake, and thy great wealth shall cause thee to perish. In Alexandria many tumults of war shall take place, and the neck of her inheritance until the trenches of her ramparts. Her princes shall be driven away. The children of the Egyptians, harassed by famine, shall flee away. Thy possessions shall be reduced to nothing. The Nile shall be drained, and thy princes shall perish. The daughters of the Nicaeans shall be in mourning and in sorrow, and on account of their kinsmen and their husbands, who shall be made captive by warriors, and thy princes shall become servants to those whom they know not. Woe unto thee, Nicomedia, who hast lifted up thine horn, and hast devoured the bodies of thy saints that were in thee. Thou shalt perish through the blood of righteous men, who shall give thee like for like, and thou shalt be cast down to hell. More lament, thou wretched one, for thou shalt be utterly destroyed with thy children. Thy princes are princes of sighs, and thy priests fond of gold and silver, and the beauty of thy splendor shall fade. Carthage, and thou people of the Persians, what will happen to thee at the end of days thou knowest not? And at the end of all ages how long shall thy existence last after that of all the towns and provinces? Thou city decked with gold and silver, and ye people adorned and embellished, shall perish by famine. There shall be great rioting in thee, and thy children shall amuse themselves with gold, and when they shall be consumed by dearth. The land of Byzantium and that of Babylon shall sink. Warriors shall seize it. Its foundations shall be destroyed, and its strength shall be crushed. Rome shall have no prince at that time, but her arms shall be sharpened, her arrows hardened, and her perfidy increased. Many times shall a prince rise up in her, and again shall he fall, and she shall be reduced to 3 streets. Many shall fear thee, O Rome, on account of thy splendor, of thy numerous princes, and on account of thine haughty arrogance and thy great wealth. Chapter 2. The children of Byzantium shall work wonders, for a man of Byzant shall depart from her, and shall go into the so-called 7 hills, and shall strengthen her foundations. Her name shall be spread throughout all the inhabitants of the world, and throughout all the different tongues. And again a wonderful man, born of a remarkable woman, shall rebuild her, and in due time the wish of his heart shall be fulfilled. For he shall find the wood of life, and his scepter shall become great. He shall find nails that were on the same side, and he shall put them on his shoulders, for the sake of salvation and of the victory in battle. His horn shall be exalted and mighty, and his name shall be acclaimed in all tongues, and an everlasting remembrance shall be granted to that city. And after him shall arise the 2nd scepter, that shall shed the blood of righteous men. He shall proclaim the commandments, but he shall not acknowledge God. And with a blind heart he will touch the holy scriptures. And after him one that is a philosopher shall come to thee, Babylon of the 7 hills, and he shall erect in thee an idol, but for that thou shalt not suffer violence. And after all of this there shall arise exalted horns and very great scepters, and they shall prevail against thee, and they shall be held in great remembrance. And another great scepter shall prevail exceedingly, and shall be exalted for the sake of the Lord's name, for God's gift is in him. Through him life shall be glorious, and through his cheerfulness all men shall rejoice. And from the towns and provinces people shall gather in thee, and shall come unto thee, the 7 hills, and each one shall work at his own work, and the scepter of the kingdom shall prevail until the end of its days. And from one scepter shall come forth 2 scepters, and one of thy scepters shall become a wild beast, and the second of thy scepters an animal. And in the 2 streets of the 7 hills from Rome there shall come unto thee a great glory, like a cup filled, until thy time shall arrive. First, the city shall be full of singing, and secondly, thy wealth as a gushing fountain shall be for all. Thou shalt be decked like a bride, and yet thou shalt appear like a widow. Thy bunches of grapes, abundantly fruitful as they were, shall diminish, and thy great glory shall be divided, and the kingdom that is in thee shall fall. And another scepter shall arise, called Theodosius, and he shall walk in holiness, and his name shall be consecrated in thee, the 7 hills. And thy children shall rejoice in his birth, and each one shall do as he listeth. All the towns and provinces shall serve thee, and thine abundance shall be a source of great prosperity to all of the world. And the Nile of the Egyptians shall give thee to drink, and thou shalt become a bulwark of the church. And there shall be great fear and trembling before thy scepter. And this is the beginning of size of thy kingdom. And the time of his scepter shall be long and very wonderful. And his scepter shall conquer unto the extremities of the earth, from the east and the west, and from the north and the south. And his neck shall be firm, and his right hand strong, and his years many more than the years of any other king. And after all of this he shall turn his face towards his father, and the number of his years shall be great, and his name shall be terrible, and his kingdom full of splendor. And a 3rd king shall be in Rome, thou 7 hills. Thou hast been called 7 hills, because all of the peoples of the Persians shall come unto thee, and thou, Rome, shall never again reign to the end of all the ages. Thy 2nd king shall reign in old age, and his name is Marsenius, and the duration of his reign shall be shorter than the reign of the 1st, and his kingdom shall be far more formidable. And that time shall be to some for good, and to others for evil. And his kingdom shall be for times, and for hours, and for half an hour. Thy builder, thou 7 hills, I shall make a present. Excuse me. I shall make a present of thee unto him, and he shall raise thee up unto him through the book of the faith, and a great rupture shall take place in his kingdom. The priests shall fall from their places, many towns shall be overthrown, and many conversions shall take place among men, and thy beauty, thou 7 hills, and thine extent shall not diminish. And after all of this, even he shall die with his fathers, and the other scepter shall reign in thee, and he shall be a wild beast, and he shall receive the first scepter, which shall all length be beaten by the dog. And this wild beast shall be like the first scepter, great and strong in words and in wisdom. And he shall not be despised by his nobles, and his neck shall be like the neck of a bullock, and his eyes like the eyes of a lion. And he shall roar fearfully, and all towns and provinces shall tremble before his horns. And during his time the rainbow shall appear in heaven, and there shall be all kinds of signs in heaven, and upon the earth shall be heard the noise of thunders and the falling away of many towns. The earth shall be cloven asunder, buildings shall be overthrown from their foundations, and her paths shall be on fire. And there shall be fightings in it, and in thee, the 7 hills. And thy gorgeous buildings shall be burnt with fire, and thy glory shall be razed to the ground. And thy children shall moan in thee, and thy great joy shall turn into mourning, and thy children shall drag along the ground the bodies of the great ones. Suddenly a storm shall come down from heaven, and shall cover the earth, and dragon-like people shall appear on earth, and many shall grow poor, and many indignant people shall grow rich. And a great riot shall take place in thee, ye warriors in Thrace and in Cilicia. Shout with arms and swords. Chapter 3. And at that time the wild beast shall send his sword to the east, and shall not be able to prevail. And a man who is shaped like a dragon, from the lion upwards, shall despise him, and with this man shall send his second sword to the west, and he shall not be able to conquer him. And the dragon shall be despised by the dog. The wild beast shall be oppressed by the dog through many presents and much gold and riches, and the dog shall rise up against the wild beast, and shall make his whelps rise against the throne of the wild beast, and against the scepters. And the dog shall rise, cause the wild beast to perish, and his dens to be captured. And the dog shall drive out the wild beast, and all men shall perceive that the dog persecutes the lion. And the lion shall return, and shall slay the dog and his whelps. And the lion shall roar with a very great roaring, and his roaring shall be heard throughout all the towns and provinces, and his dens shall inspire terror. And men shall be disconnected amongst themselves on account of the roaring of the lion, and of the death of the dog. And the second dog, by transforming his tongue, shall drive back the lion to his den, and shall depart from him when he shall no longer be able to resist him. And the dog's whelp shall conceal himself 4 times, and for a time, and for an hour, and in his time he shall reign, and his name shall be Whelp of Dog, which being translated means King of Peoples. And the wild beast shall root out the remembrance of the dog, as they shall have none in it previously. They shall spread calumny about him, and they will destroy his image in his town, and many shall meditate slaying him in the wild beast's den. And they shall not resist him, and his colleagues and authority shall die by the sword in another town. And already said that. And well shall they know the prayers of the priest for the sake of the unknown ones. And one of the great ones, a young man from amongst the warriors of the wild beast, will send to the beast many people bound hand and foot. And then when the wild beast shall make many his servants from amongst the different peoples, and as a lord shall call them to him, another man shall present himself unto him, and shall take him in his bosom. And he shall drive away the warrior men, and he himself shall be driven away by them, and shall flee from them on foot, and nobody shall overtake him, for he is swift of foot. And he shall flee to the wild beast, and shall enter into his bosom, and the little wild beast shall go out unto him, and shall be inspired with courage. And the big wild beast shall make him to sit on his throne, and cause him to be his colleague in authority, and on the throne a substitute for himself. And the 2 wild beasts shall dwell in one cavern. The whelp shall be emboldened to make war, and the wild beast shall return to his own land from whence he came. And the little wild beast shall occupy his place until a certain time, being crowned king by no one, but through his own violence, and he shall come into the snares of the kingdom. And the young wild beast shall return to the big wild beast, and leaving the snares to him who made them, he shall rule over thee, the 7 hills, and shall oppress thee. His rejoicing shall be great. He will give himself up to pleasure, and be beloved by the great ones. But many shall hate him. He shall grant life in abundance, and the dragon shall play with him, and with the hunting rod of the wild beast shall drag him along. Woe to thee in that time, thou 7 hills, Babylon, when the widow shall reign, and the dragon shall drive away the stranger, and the stranger that is called Salamander shall flee, turning his face towards the islands. Gold and silver and precious stones, and the crowns of the scepters, and he who is in the bosom of the wild beast, tripled by the Persian people of Carthage, none of the men shall drive him away because of his love of the dragon, and of thy great splendor that was in thee. And he shall be driven about from the land to land, and shall be oppressed by strangers. And being oppressed by the strangers, in sustenance and by journeys, he shall send up his signs unto his Creator along with his innocent ones. And the hunting rod of which came forth from the wild beast shall be allied with the dog, and the dragon shall occupy the place of oppression and of trial, following with his worthless thrones, and shall make war on the holy place. And the dragon with his tongue shall utter threats against holy men, and against the holy relics, and shall suppress the government of the patriarchs, and take by force the holy churches. And they who shall dwell in the holes and the caverns and the clefts of the earth shall come unto thee, the 7 hills, to escape from the tyranny of the dragon. And after all of this, they shall shake off the dust from their feet, and thee, suffering martyrdom at his hands. And then the beauty of thy magnificence shall be burnt with fire, and a young man shall flee away under presence of carrying with its hunting rod the first wild beast, who is called Salamander. Then in that time the dragon will suffer oppression, and he shall be taken by his successors, and shall be bound by those that are at his left, and nobody shall receive him, because he shed the blood of holy men in the towns and in the provinces. And he shall flee into the holy temple, which he previously had usurped, and nobody shall receive him. For plagues from heaven shall be upon him. And the young man shall come to Salamander, and he shall cause the stranger to advance before the dragon. And the dragon, seeing him, shall flee away from him, and the stranger shall not slay the dragon. He will keep him away from his presence, and the young man shall fall, and great shall his fall be. And the widow shall not escape, and they shall cause her to see the stranger and his colleague on the throne, and she shall become tributary in the tabernacles of him who created her. And at her throne shall be required the blood of her father. And in a short time the stranger shall become great, and there shall be an abundance in thee, 7 hills. And many shall die amongst the men who are assembled in thee from the towns and provinces. Chapter 4. And at that time there shall be earthquakes in divers places, and they shall hear the voice of many people, and they will not believe. And thy wealth and thy glory made thee as sad as thou wast proud before. And thine ambition humbled thee, but great abundance and beauty shall be in thee. The end of the time shall come to thee. And from thee shall come forth the hunting rod that proceeds from the wild beast, and he will go to the dwellings of the strangers. Then thy daughters shall adorn themselves to be a snare to the young men, to kill many of them, and thy great ones shall fall, and many tribulations and troubles shall take place. Then the angel of death shall strike thee with all the towns and provinces, and violent deaths shall be sent down from heaven. Suddenly he shall be excited against the earth. The earth shall shake, and the temples shall fall, and the houses shall become graves. And the sea shall make its waves foam up, and shall cover men, and there shall be some who shall flee away and be saved. Then a gathering of angels shall take place, and they shall present themselves in prayer before the throne. Then shalt thou, 7 hills, Babylon, mourn for thy children lying in sackcloth, and casting ashes on thy head, when thou shalt see men perish on account of their sins and transgressions, both men with children and women with suckling babes shall perish, because the Lord's wrath is upon them. Thy defences shall be cloven asunder, and thy tabernacle shall be razed to the ground. Sucking children with parched mouths shall cry unto God, and thy priests shall fret themselves and weep. Thy great ones, thy scepters, and thy citizens shall mourn sorely, and thy travelers shall pain. Thy bunches of grapes shall fall, and thy vineyards shall fail. The earth shall be cleft with a great shock, and shall cause men to perish from the suckling child to the old man. But the Lord shall not cause thee to perish wholly, thou 7 hills, for the time of thy destruction is not yet come. The gulf shall open to swallow up men, but it shall not engulf them, for thy time is not yet come. Torments are prepared for thee, for thou hast committed all kinds of iniquity, having received the earth in thy bosom, and men shall be in great anguish until the Lord shall send from heaven to destroy them. But the counsels of the Lord shall appear from the punishment that must take place, and those who have found refuge in thee shall suffer torments. The people that place their hope in thee and the hunting rod shall make thee perish. The whelp shall drive away the whelp, requiring the blood of his fathers, and of his own will shall he give himself up to strangers, to the dogs, and to their companions. And he shall raise up tongues and peoples, and shall rule over many nations. And the 2 dogs shall fight against one another, and shall destroy each other. Woe, when the widow shall reign, and shall secretly conspire against the strangers, and the other stranger will seek her ruin, and shall perfidiously destroy her. And those days shall be painful and calamitous. The children of the scepters shall be in the tumult, and shall fight against one another, and then men shall suffer much pain and misery, such as they have never been before known. And the prince, the believer, shall not trust in the salamander, because he is a stranger, and they shall receive from his people what they did not ask. And the salamander would fain flee away, but he shall not be able, for Placitus shall reach him and shall kill him. And the other scepter shall rule in thee, O 7 hills, and many afflictions shall take place. A poor man shall come up who shall not acknowledge favors, a haughty man, fond of gold, warlike, and his name is Orligius. And his throne shall last few days, and he shall be swift to anger, and his nobles shall hate him, and his townsmen shall be vexed. Wrath from heaven shall be during his days. Many times he shall harass Babylon during the time of his reign. Sad news shall arrive for thee, and the troops of barbarians shall alarm thee, and they shall not fight. Then another tyrant king shall come up, and shall fight against him, and shall drive him away, and he will slay him with a great affliction and groaning. And this king shall reign, and shall take hold of the scepter that is in thee, the 7 hills. And he shall be the greatest among the very great, and glorious thrones. And that man shall be valiant on the right hand and on the left. And during his time there shall be a great famine, and not a small one. And the earth shall become uninhabited by men. Abundant watercourses shall flow out, and the sky shall become gloomy and agitated. The vineyards shall diminish. Thy beauties shall be deformed. The days shall be shortened, and 1 day shall be dwarfed to 6 hours. Woe to the men that shall be in that time. And the king shall turn his face to the west. Then woe to thee, the 7 hills, when thy king is a young man. In that time a great peril shall overtake thee. There shall be a man who shall know his brother's wife, and the son his mother, and the daughter shall go up to her father's bed. The brother shall know his sister, and there shall be multiplied blasphemies, murders, oaths, slanderers, falsehoods, obscenities, sufferings, abuses of authority, hatred, mutinies, bloodshed in the temple of the holy ministers. And kings shall arise against kings, princes against princes, the powerful against the power, and the rich against the poor, and the poor shall perish. Bithynia, which is on the seashore, shall be destroyed by an earthquake, and the waves of the sea shall mount up and overflow and cover the foundations of Bithynia, as far as the little town of Nicomedia. And again another king shall arise, and his time shall be for a few years or few days only. He shall be wicked and very terrible, and henceforth there shall be no good season but a bad one. His son shall make war against him, and shall destroy him by the sword. And another king shall arise, of another religion, an Aryan, and shall draw all to himself. Woe to thee, O 7 hills, at that time, for more than all thou shalt mourn for thyself and thy boundaries. After this, kings and princes and chiefs and champions shall rise against towns and provinces and places, and there shall be riots and confusions among men. A barbarous people shall fall upon the towns and the provinces, and because of the multitude of the people, the earth shall sink 73 cubits. And thou 7 hills shalt not be vexed by them, but a war of thine own shall afflict thee, and the beauty of the earth shall diminish in thee. Wrath from heaven shall be upon thee, and a great scourge, and a pillar of fire shall appear stretching from heaven to earth. Then thy kingdom shall be removed, and thou shalt remain in eternal pollution. And thus thou shalt be consumed by dearth, and a prince of a little moment shall bring the other scepter into the other town, and arrows of fire shall be showered from heaven, and many signs and wonders shall be shown. Then the Antichrist shall rule, and men shall turn aside from the worship of God, and become unbelievers to the coming of him whom they did not seek nor expect, who was an adversary unto all. This man shall be conceived and born of an unholy virgin, and the scepter of imposture shall seize upon the human race during 3 times and a half a time. He will bring the souls of many to perdition, to be partakers of hell forever. Then the angels shall be in anxiety when they shall see these signs that he showed previously. And when pious men learn this, they will know and mark the adversary of all mankind, whose signs are these. The joints of his knees are stiff. He is crippled in body, smooth-browed, crooked-fingered, long-headed, charming, boastful, intelligent, laughing sweetly, a seer, discreet, sprightly, meek, quiet, a wonder-worker, having near him the souls of the lost, drawing bread out of stones, making the blind to see, the lame to walk, and removing mountains from place to place. All this he will perform in semblance, and many shall believe in him. Woe to them who shall believe in him, and shall take his mark. Their eyes shall be closed, and turn no more unto him in whom they before had hoped. After this a very great famine shall come, and the heavens shall not shower down rain, and the earth shall not put forth grass. All the fruits shall dry up, and all the inhabitants of the provinces and the towns shall bewail themselves. They shall flee, and they shall not be able to escape, from the east unto the west, and from the west unto the east. But they that dwell among the mountains, and in the caverns, and in the hollows, and in the clefts of the earth, they only shall be able to flee until the second coming of him who was born of the Holy Virgin. Then his elect ones shall be known, and they shall see the final coming of the Lord. He shall approach, and many shall be judged. There shall be sounds from heaven, and much tribulation throughout the world. Woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in the last days. Woe to the intemperate, and to them who shall believe in the adversary. Woe to them who worshipped him, and declared themselves eager for his coming. Chapter 5. And after all of this has come to pass, and the saints and righteous men have suffered torments through poverty, tyranny, then shall the end come. And some amongst men shall point out traces, and shall recognize the 7 hills, and shall say, Has this ever been a city? And a woman shall go over to the east and to the west, to the north and to the south, and shall find no fruit, but shall find only an olive tree. And she shall embrace the olive tree. She shall sigh and say, Blessed be he who planted this tree. And in the same spot her soul shall depart from her. Then the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, and the stars shall fall down like leaves, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and the sea shall bubble up from its depths, and shall overflow to cover all men. And everything shall be burnt and dried by the wind, and the angels of fire shall come down from heaven, and all the universe shall be set on fire. Mice shall appear, flame-shaped and of copper, and like to them flesh-eating savage beasts shall come out of the mountains, and they shall not fear. And he for whom the land of the ungodly sought shall perish, and the righteous shall be caught up unto the Father. For a decree has gone out from the Lord. Thrones shall be set up, and books shall be opened. Thrones of judgment shall be established. The angels shall sound the trumpet. The righteous shall rejoice, and shall give glory to the Father, and they shall be judged according to their deeds. But only the Lord is the righteous judge, and all his works and all mankind shall open their mouths and shall cry and say, Lord, thou who art the Lord, lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thou, Lord, who knowest and perceivest that we are not able to bear it, for we are made of flesh, as a beneficent and kindly Father, have pity upon us. For thine is the glory now, forever and ever, unto all the ages. Amen.